Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, partnering with donors from all walks of life to improve southeastern Virginia through grants, scholarships, and leadership initiatives. Learn more at hamptonroadscf.org.
Hello, everyone. I'm Another View producer Lisa Godley. Up next, it's the Another View Roundtable, ready to weigh in on the hot topics of the day. There's so much going on, affecting so many, from massive layoffs impacting 18 federal agencies to tariffs, which economists say will cause more economic harm than good. And what's to become of Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security? President Trump says he won't touch them, but Elon Musk says they're a primary target when it comes to reducing waste and fraud. Roundtable pundits Daun Hester, Gaylene Kanoyton, Allison Moore, and Bill Thomas joined the discussion right after this news from NPR and WHRO News.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Hello, everyone. I'm Another View producer Lisa Godley. I'm in for Barbara Ham-Lee today, and I can't wait to jump into this conversation because there is so much going on right now that is impacting so many. They range from massive federal layoffs to the impact of the tariffs on the economy. And let's not forget the price of eggs. There's a possibility of a government shutdown, and what's to become of Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. An hour probably isn't long enough to discuss all of this, but we are going to give it our best shot. Joining me in the studio is the Another View Roundtable, Norfolk City Treasurer Daun Hester. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Political Action Chair for the Virginia NAACP, Gaylene Kanoyton. Gaylene, thank you for being here.
Good morning. Good afternoon. I'm sorry, I'm still in the morning. Mm-hmm.
Allison, the comedian, host of More Laughing in the Morning show. Allison Moore, thank you.
Hey, y'all. Hey.
And joining us by phone, a man who spends a lot of his time on Capitol Hill, community activist Bill Thomas. Bill, thank you.
Hey, good morning. It's a very good time to see everybody. Just turned noon. Thank you for having me on the program.
All right. Now, I want to start this conversation addressing the massive layoffs. Thousands of federal workers have been laid off or issued immediate termination notifications. The most recent came yesterday, the Department of Education, which is now staring at a total workforce cut of 50%. Daun, I'm going to start with you. Can cities and states absorb these jobs?
The short answer is no.
Okay.
That is the short answer. Of course, we do have positions open. There are opportunities to hire. Don't necessarily know that it is a part of the, levels of what the federal workers have been used to and or what their work was. But we know that they have the ability, because they were working, to do whatever they desire to do. But it is going to be hard. We can't absorb them all. We can't absorb them all. Mm-hmm. But the other part of that is, to me, is that cities may even need to think about what services we might need to reduce, or states might need to reduce. Mm. Because it's more than just the layoffs that are impacting states and cities, because we're also having reductions in services for certain grants and things that are coming into the city and the state, that come from the state to the cities. So those things are going to impact us as well. So there's a whole lot to consider in that package, and it's just horrible the way it's being done. But the short answer is no.
Okay, Gaylene, your thoughts?
This is very emotional for me because it's impacting my family, my immediate family, to include my son. And it's unfortunate you have people coming to work every day, whether they don't know whether they're going to have a job or not. And the way this is all being done is just reckless. And I think that this is bigger than just making the government smaller. We know that, to me, it's bigger than words. You know, it's about changing all of civilization. And at the end of the day, it boils all down to racism, because the biggest thing is who's being impacted by our black people who works in the federal government. I mean, I know white people are too, but there are a lot of black people that are being infected by that. And I'm just speaking from our point of view as within ACP.
Okay. Allison, you're a parent. You're the only parent in the group here.
I'm a parent.
I mean, school-age children.
Oh, okay.
Okay, ladies, I'm sorry. I apologize. Because I have two college graduates myself. But the only public school-age parent of a public school-age child. Let's go there. What are your concerns regarding what's going on with the Department of Education?
Okay, so we jumped because I was in the job place, and but I guess I kind of share some of those same sentiments going over into the school conversation, because there's job insecurity or position insecurity there too, with the potential of reducing the workforce, the needs, the services, the ability. So yes, you coming over here asking me as a parent of a school-age child is a little trigger. Because why you got to remind me that I got a kid I got to do homework with? I was minding my business over here in the radio. Shout out to those of us parents who got little kids, and we trying our best, okay? Because I say sometimes, like, girl, you got the nerve to be doing homework right now. You know what you could be doing. How do I feel about what's going on? I'm trying to balance the emotions, my own fear. I don't know, I have individual things happening, right, with my kid in his classroom, and then I have to be patient. Like, well, I guess the principal got a whole lot of other issues that she worried about. And you could just see it trickling down from what's going on at the administrative level to the teachers, to how the kids' experiences when they come home. That's pretty frustrating. I have my own personal, you and I have talked about it anyway sometime, with how I feel about public school. I mean, I am a product of a public school. My two older children were in public school, but I wanted to have a huge do-over, if I can be really honest, with the distribution of resources for certain schools. So on the one hand, I'm like, well, what the heck? On the other hand, I'm almost like, well, let's see what's going to come out in the wash, because there is a lot of opportunity for that to be improved. Now, when I'm being realistic, I'm like, well, the kids that look like mine might be at the end of the list of benefiting from all of these changes. But I'm also a parent that's trying to figure out, like, well, what do I do? How do I advocate? In fact, on my show, I had a person who was like an educator. She used to be a principal. And I asked her, like, how do we as parents get involved? A lot of us, I have no memories of my mom coming and doing homework with me or coming up to the school. She sent us to school and don't get in trouble, and then when you come home. So now I'm kind of like, oh shoot, there's a lot going on that's impacting the school. What am I supposed to do? How do I get involved? How is my voice heard? How should I feel? But ultimately, there is some fear, there is some confusion, and I am kind of like stuck. Like, let me wait and see how this is going to roll down to my kid in Suffolk Public School.
Gotcha. And with them looking to move money to the states from the sections that they're removing staff, then the states are going to have to distribute those funds, which means there's going to have to be an increase in staffing at the state level to administer that. So there is no cost coming to administer these, which is what the individuals at the State Department of Ed, U.S. Department of Ed, were doing for us to make sure that it came to each of the schools that it was entitled to, Title I schools, special needs students. So there's such a vast array of what, the individuals who do the work that are being cut, that what's not being publicly talked about is what those positions did or do, and that are not going to be there now.
Mm.
Right. Okay.
So does this mean, like, are we looking at even larger class sizes with teachers, or are we looking at, y'all might not have a school for these kids to go to? Like, what degree should I be think it could happen?
That we're always going to have public schools. Let me say this now. I can't even say that. I can't even say that.
Right.
I can't say that we're always going to have public schools. My desire is that we always have public schools. But at this juncture, you do need to try to support your schools, your teachers, and the administrators, because they too, just like us, we don't know how things are going to impact us as they're moving down the road, because there's so much that is being done that we're really not keeping. The people who are doing it don't know what they're doing, but then because it impacts so many of us, we don't know how soon it's going to hit us. So you just need to pay attention. But I know that a lot of the money that comes from the Department of Ed is for our Title I schools and for our children with special needs.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Bill, I want to get you in on this conversation. What are your thoughts on these massive layoffs? They've affected 18 agencies, federal agencies at this point.
Yes, it has. Excuse me. But I feel for the people who lose a job. That's like almost losing a life. You lose a career, you lose a life. Pretty much the same to me. So I can have empathy for that particular area. But in reality, is we're going through a global change of how things are done. You look at that at one side, it's not being good for some people and being good for others. Virginia Tech and Google just put together a $500 billion economic expansion for technology innovation in D.C. and the D.C. area, which has low unemployment rates for people that were able to get the education that they need to be functional in the 21st century. I've always said that our regional economy and security are all tied to the success or failure of our public schools. And no one, no race, no place is immune. Jobs are being created. I just looked at a Wall Street Journal report of jobs in different states, and the Commonwealth right now has over 1.7 million jobs available. But the techniques and how you do those jobs are at different skill levels. So at the end of the day, I see it as a really, really difficult challenge. But to have people like Daun in leadership, I've known her forever, and she's been a great, great administrator of schools. Maybe we have to go back to the old days and try to keep that doing ourselves. And the NAACP, of course, is doing whatever they can to make it work. But we have to prepare our children for the economics of the future. No one is immune. And so what's going on now is just reality of what we need to do to prepare our children, young lady, for the 21st and 22nd century.
And
Yeah, and at the same time,
Everybody had something to say. Okay. Go ahead.
at the same time, all those things are good on the front end, but on the back end, our people are suffering. And at the at the end of the day, you could talk about this technology and all these great things that needs to happen, but there needs to be a balance because it's not happening at all. You know that when when America catch a cold, black people catch pneumonia, and you know that.
The other thing I was going to say is I do agree that we need to prepare our children for the future, and how we teach them in the classroom, I totally agree, must be totally transformed. I agree with that. The part, though, that I'm challenged with is we might have 1 million jobs in Virginia, but how soon can we train our Virginians to be able to get into those jobs, and how many employers will accept them as they're being trained? Because as I said before, we know they're capable of working because they've been working. But how fast will that turn around, or can that happen? But I still have to go back to how it is being done. It is being done, in my opinion, recklessly and capricious, and based on race, and based on what division you are working in. That is a part of how you're losing your job. And so I think that, you can always do a reduction in force, but it's how you do it that impacts your people and their lives and their livelihood. Because what are we going to do about all these individuals who are homeowners and now can't pay their mortgage because they're going to have to use all of their savings, if they have any, to just try to stay in their home and or try to keep their kids in school. So even though they're, Tech got this big grant, how long that going to last? They might cut that too. You just never know. And who's managing and overseeing it? All of those are components of government. You have to think about all the pieces, not just what we're seeing that's hitting the news.
Yeah, one other thing, and the other thing is just that $1 billion can be cut from D.C. It's in the budget right now to cut $1 billion from D.C. So you talk about doing all these great things for people in D.C., yet it's in the budget to cut $1 billion for their local resources in D.C. The mayor came out and announced it.
Okay. Allison, before you go, I just want to add a couple of things. 20 states plus D.C. have filed stop layoff action. 1,300 people notified this week that they will be terminated in 90 days. Go.
Sheesh. Okay, so this is an exciting conversation. So, Bill, when you mentioned the preparing the children piece, and this is where I'm like torn. I'm glad that you all are here because you're right. Our communities are suffering, right, Gaylene? And then, Daun, the reality is the jobs are available. How do we get people up to speed and develop to be able to qualify for those jobs? And then Bill says, okay, we got to make sure we're preparing these kids. And so Allison says, I want to be community minded as much as possible. But then there's some preservation. I got 3 children. And I got me, myself, and I is all I got in the end. So I'm like, let me figure out for myself, what are the best moves that I can make? And I see how sometimes people don't always make the best moves for everybody because they feel like, well, the community ain't taking care of me, so I got to take care of myself. Specifically, I'm thinking, I moved into a neighborhood that has access to significantly better resources than any other neighborhood that I have ever had access to. So Allison then started to think about, and I see my thoughts be consumed with, okay, how I get my kid in a private school? Instead of, how do I go to some meetings and help this public school that I came from? And now we're in this crisis and more pressure is coming. And if I'm like, I got 24 hours in a day, am I spending that time marching? Or am I spending that time trying to get an extra couple $1,000s or figure it out so that I can help my children, like Bill said, prepare for the financial future? Because I sure wasn't. So I appreciate these kind of conversations to keep me rounded, but then also me to realize, what should I be doing? What is my next step? How should I really be focused? And it's easy to say, help everybody, but I'm scared too. I got this 5th grader.
But I think that those were great comments, but I do believe one of the news reports right before we went on the air today was the fact that Virginia Beach was creating some jobs in tourism and et cetera. That's fine. That's great. I understand. But at the same time, in Northern Virginia, Virginia Tech and Google are getting ready to invest $500 billion in a high technology job. So we got to get balanced everywhere. And I've also thought that, and with Commissioner Hester on, is fine. She is a fine administrator of education. I think that if we can get to the point where we truly understand, we have to stop depending on some people to do what we have to do for ourselves, and we just got to do it. And I commend you for starting to look at different things that are going to be of special value to your child, because that's what you're going to have to do. The reliance that we've had, in my judgment, on other folks to do the right thing, that's black or white, for us and our own communities is missing. I think we need to build strong communities. I think we need to build faith back into our communities. I think we need to improve the way we look at each other and talk to each other, and also create jobs and opportunities for our own selves, so we won't be dependent on someone doing something that for a long time has not been done for each other. But I think we have it. I think we have the will. I think we have the institutions to do it. I think we have the leadership, especially here in Virginia with Mr. Scott. It's just a wonderful, challenging opportunity for us to do for us what we should do for us and not expect someone else to take care of what we need to do to pay our rent and make our mortgage payments and send our kids to school.
If you look at social determinants of health, let's talk about that. And let's talk about systemic racism. It doesn't always boil down to somebody asking for a hand out. They look asking for a hand up. And what you're saying is that we don't need to, we need to do it on ourselves. And the way that the system has been built from slavery has always been built for us to be on the back burner.
Speaking but we haven't always been on the back burner. When we do it ourselves,
the masses. No, I'm not saying there is a group of in the marginalized community. Yes, they have.
Okay, she brought up health, so I'm going to slide into our next topic: Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. We got a lot to kind of open up here today, folks. Elon Musk has said that there are big waste and fraud in these entitlement programs. Musk, who is the head of the Department of Government Efficiency, calls Social Security the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. Anybody want to jump in right there?
Don't you pay to put in social? Oh, go ahead, Bill. I'll let you go first.
No, you're fine. The biggest Ponzi scheme is these wars that we're in and all these military armaments that take up almost $750 trillion of our expense and almost 50% of our budget that we need to really get under control. The little bit of money that they're going to save by squeezing people on Medicare and Medicaid is just not going to do anything but keep us separate and at each other's throats. But that's just a falsehood that number is accurate, and Mr. Moss is wrong about that. The biggest thing is that we're fighting wars we're sending missiles and killing people, that missiles that cost $25 and $50 million each, and we just have to figure out a better way of getting along with each other. Simply put, from my standpoint.
Thank you, Bill. Dawn?
I guess I was just going to say, do I need to go ahead and file for my Social Security? Because I haven't done that. And if I try to, will I be able to get anybody on the line? Because they done cut all the call service people out. But don't I pay into my Social Security? Don't they get some of my money? And that's how Social Security is there for some of us, and we share it with others as well. So this is my money that you're talking about.
Yeah, a lot of people are taking issue with the title, with the word entitlement.
Yeah,
when they're paying
it's
into
not an
the
entitlement.
program.
All of us who are working, and some who aren't, but are receiving because they have a need, which is fine with me. But if I'm paying into it, you can't tell me I can't get my money or have access to the people who help me to file the papers or make sure that I'm doing things right. And I'm, waiting till I hit the 70 mark so I can get the max that I can get. And here I am today going, I messed up. I should have been trying to get my money. At least maybe I might have a check coming. But now we don't even know if individuals are going to have their checks coming because we don't know who has access to the database and what they're doing with the database and if they're printing the checks. I know I'm going on and on, but that's all of the emotions that I'm having around all of these things that are impacting people's lives daily. And we really can't give them an answer that's assuring them. And from the people who are leading right now and doing these things, they really don't care about that because they have, and it won't impact them.
Gaylene, you want to chime in on this?
So, the Medicaid and Affordable Care is in my wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. And we have enrolled so many people that normally would not have insurance into it because they eventually want to have a healthier society.
Right.
And I've got more younger people enroll into it and going to the doctor now. So when you start doing these cuts, then what's going to happen is that they're not going to go to the doctor. They're not going to be able to, have the insurance. And it's a ripple. Again, there's a way to do things. It needs to be a balance. And that's all what I'm saying. Because this come in with the chainsaw massacre ain't working. It's just not working. It's hurting a lot of people. And we will see it in November.
One of the things, I'm sorry, but one of the things that I saw when I was in the General Assembly and when we voted on Medicaid expansion, a part of it states that if we ever lose the money from the federal level, we will be ending the program, because that was a part of the fear of, if we do it and can't sustain it with the partnership between the feds and the state, then what happens? And here we're seeing it.
If you're just joining us, we're talking with the Another View Roundtable, Norfolk City Treasurer Daun Hester, Political Action Chair for the Virginia NAACP, Gaylene Kanoyton, Allison the comedian, host of More Laughing in the Morning, Allison Moore, and community activist Bill Thomas. If you'd like to join the conversation, give us a call at 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Allison.
It scares me, again, with the Medicaid piece. I remember 10 years ago, I had a toddler. I had elementary school kids. I was a sandwich generation person because my mother had to go to a nursing home, and I was able to care for her and give her, in her last year, a quality transition experience because of the programs like that. And so, again, I'm like, dang, this is hitting close to home. Like, these are potential landmines as by far going to blow up me and my people with the elimination of these resources.
Yeah, 72 million people in the U.S. are enrolled in Medicaid. That's a lot of people.
That's a lot.
That is a lot of people. The budget. Y'all ready to talk about the budget?
The B word.
Lawmakers have until tomorrow at midnight to pass legislation to avoid a government shutdown. The House narrowly passed a 6-month funding bill on Tuesday. Vote 217 to 213, with all Republicans except one supporting the legislation. The measure now heads to the Senate, where its fate is uncertain. Well, Gaylene, what do you anticipate?
Shutdown.
Okay.
I think it's gonna be a shutdown. I think it's gonna be a shutdown because there are many cuts in there that's going to affect impact. Let me just say that, make major impact on Medicaid being one, and some of these other issues that we've been talking about. I believe it's going to be a shutdown. Well, from what I'm hearing, I think it's going to be a shutdown.
Daun, this bill includes a slight increase in military spending and a $13 billion cut to domestic non-defense spending.
What else is in there? Isn't there something in there that it gives the president some additional powers as well? That's the part that gets me. But in my opinion, government's already shut down because we all scramble and don't know what's going on. It's pretty much shut down. But shut down actually means our military people don't get a check. That employees of the federal government don't get a check. When they don't get their checks, then they can't pay their bills. But I do see a shutdown coming because there are things within this budget, and if you read it, and you don't have to read all of it, but if you read it, there are some conditions in there that I would not want my representatives to support. And I don't see how you're going to get 8 Democrats to support it to get to that 60 threshold. But I don't know. But it is very much concerning. So, I hope it'll bring people to the table when the shutdown comes, because I do anticipate one.
Wow. Okay. All right. Thank you.
I pray that there's not a shutdown, because too many people that are already suffering are going to suffer more, and the immediate impact based upon the other things that are going on, like 2,000 and 3,000 people that have been laid off or fired at the Department of Education. The industry that is now reducing its workforce, the incentives to be more of a pluralistic country with the taking away of some affirmative action plan, and the dilution of us getting together, and the issues related to DEI and all the other things. We have to see what's coming along. And so I would pray that there wasn't one, because it'll hurt people that can't take it anymore. So I think the budget will get passed just on that alone. I pray that.
Well,
go
ahead. I'm sorry.
I pray that. That's all I can say. but because the differences, as I just heard them, are so wide, there'll never be a budget. Not under this situation that we're in now. So I would hope that we could come together at least to understand that we can't hurt the ones that are hurting it even more.
Well, it's a continuing resolution. So what's in this budget, number-wise, is pretty steady. It's the other things that were added on to it that are causing the concern. And for me, it's the additional powers granted. Because once you give away your power, you can't. It's hard to get it back. And that's why I said that's the issue for me. If that were taken out of the budget, I could handle the military increase and some of the other things.
Okay.
It's certainly going to impact Hampton Roads because probably plus 50% of our economy deals with military and military support and armament and ships and submarines and those kind of things. So we have to think about that as well.
But also, let me just say this. People are already laying off. I just got a call from a text from someone from CHKD. CHKD just did a layoff. This is a domino effect. And you have people that are going to work on their federal jobs, whether don't know whether they're going to have a job tomorrow, next week, or whatever. So shut it down.
Well, okay, I don't want it to shut down.
I mean, when I say shut it down, fix it. I want them to fix it. That's what I'm saying. Let me say that.
Negotiate some of those things out of there that are truly harmful.
Right.
Because it is just a continuation. But get the harmful stuff out.
Right, I agree with you.
Right. So, and as individuals, we have to be as responsible as we can, too, with what we have. Because as you know, everything in life is, you take care of your family and you try to take care of your friends, but we have to do our job individually. However, everything around us impacts us.
Okay, I'm going to take a call. Daryl from Newport News. Thank you for calling Another View.
Good afternoon. Always enjoy the program. I'm disappointed that y'all don't use more statistics, fundamentals. You guys talk about the system not working for the individual, but I rarely hear academic achievement nationally for, whatever, one race or another. We're struggling, tremendously.
You're right.
So that plays a role, equity and people achieving academically. And two, with the medical care, we don't talk about obesity. It's somewhere $200 to $300 billion in unnecessary medical expenses due to obesity, and we don't talk about. I don't hear that. That needs to be part of the conversation. That fundamentals, individual responsibility. We're struggling as individuals to be responsible, and I'd love to hear more of that. I enjoyed the program, but I want to hear y'all focus more on where are we statistically.
Well, we do talk about health when we do our AV on health with Keith Newby once a month.
Yeah,
but most of the statistics has been taken down. Has been taken down. Y'all know that, right? So it's been skewed too. So I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but I just want to respond because I do agree that there's individual responsibility, but then you have to learn individual responsibility. And you have to learn it from somebody who's teaching it to you. So just like we were talking about, with health insurance and the ability to have it, the ability to go to a doctor to help you with those conditions that you may have, whether it's obesity, diabetes, blood pressure, whatever it may be, there's so many people out here struggling with those things who are not can't access what they could for their health. And I'm going to have to just tell you, Daryl, when I come in here, I don't have the statistics, but I have the overall data from just life and living and reading. So we'll try to do better with the data. But you're right. Those are individual things that people can do. But once again, individuals have to learn how to take care of themselves, how to eat better, how to exercise and do those things. And so it does take a lot. And so even though it's an individual responsibility, it's a community action too, an effort that we should all try to support and help one another.
And data doesn't always capture everything either. So let's talk about that too.
But Daryl, you called up in here and you read us. But look, I like some data. Can you send some? Like what? Give me, because I'm out here. I'm in the public. So tell me some data that I should have, referenced that would be helpful. Or
we're getting slammed in PISA by other nations' children. It's called PISA. It's been around since 2000. Program of International Student Assessment. We finished middle of the pack, stagnant for years. Static. Our numbers don't improve, but we spend somewhere between $15,000-$20,000 per student.
Oh, this is good. Wait, where you get this from? Hold on, I gotta take notes. Where you get it from? Tell me. Give me straight, because I gotta be smarter.
You can go through anything and find it. I'll give you statistics. I was.
Oh, it's a group call. Hold on, who is this?
It's Bill.
It's Bill.
Bill. Bill Thomas.
Okay.
Yeah. Go to Chat GPT. There's other things. In fact, I'll get your email address and I'll send you some things to get statistics. I am an economist, so what I did do, I looked up the 7 nations that are going to meet, I think next month, and I want to look at their educational attainment by each nation. Ranked number 1 in educational assessment is Japan. Ranked number 2 is Canada. Ranked number 3 is Germany. Ranked number 4 is the United Kingdom. Ranked number 5 is France. Ranked number 6 is the United States of America. So when we look at those kind of things like that, and 7 was Italy. Well, what I then looked at was, what is causing one state to be a little bit better than the other, just overall?
Okay, so this is something you said, Chat GPT. Bye, Daryl. Thank you. You helped us a lot with that. He got me together. So, Bill, you're saying Chat GPT, I would go and look at this stuff?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay. And
then you can do your own research, and you can even get schooled on that if you'd like to. But at the end of the day, I did look and say, well, what makes California or what makes Virginia better or worse? And just I'll let it go with this. But what it said was in a caption was high-ranking school districts in Northern Virginia, Fairfax and Loudoun County, produce the bulk of educational advancement in Virginia. But then if you match that with the news story that came on before we went on, the technology advances that they are making up in Northern Virginia with Virginia Tech, with Google, with all of these new technology things they're doing there, it matches with what they are investing in. The other issue is that, are we investing? They would make that CHKD was losing jobs. Not only are they going to lose jobs, most of the other research hospitals in this area are going to lose very badly, because what the Congress has done, or the president has proposed, let me make that correct, is cutting what they call indirect charge from research that we do. So what happens is we lose maybe a third or fourth of our research income. It's gone away now. So those doctors that were practicing research lost their jobs. So they're not going to be there. It's going to be EVMS. It's going to be University of Virginia. And they just said Johns Hopkins lost $400 billion. I mean, it's just crazy, $1 million, because that part was cut. So we really have to think about what we're doing, because our universities, all of them, HBCUs and PWI, primarily white institutions, are going to be cutting their budget.
So,
we can't do research.
So what you're saying is that the president and Elon Musk need to rethink what they're doing. Is that what you're saying?
No, they're not going to do it, because what they're doing is being competitive with the world. You see the companies or countries that are ahead of us in educational assessment, they're doing different kinds of work. We've changed from an agricultural society to an industrial society. Now we're changing to a technological society. And the things that worked 50 years ago are not going to work in the next 10 years.
Okay, I'm going to shift gears for just a second. Well, it's actually not shifting gears. President Trump wants to boost domestic manufacturing through tariffs. Meanwhile, economists argue that tariffs will not revive manufacturing jobs. Now, Canada, in the meantime, Canada feels betrayed and is imposing $21 billion in retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods. Bill, you the numbers person. I mean, your thoughts?
But Canada is going to lose because what the administration is counting on is driving up their oil production so that they don't have to buy oil from Canada and they can produce it in the United States. And a lot of things are just so crazy. If you think about it, you talk about the Gulf of Mexico. You know, the last administration put severe restraints on being able to drill oil in the Gulf of Mexico. But if you look at what's happening now, they're calling that the Gulf of America. So words do mean things. And we're going to be sticking oil production in places that are closer to land base and in the Gulf of, quote now, America. So what we have to do is think ahead so that we're prepared to deal with these kinds of things. But I don't want to be too long about it, but no, Canada is going to lose because when oil production goes up, when they start those pipelines that they had to stop 4 years ago, that's going to take care of that particular problem right there, in my judgment.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Go ahead, Gaylene.
I don't think Canada going to lose. I think Canada has, we get stuff from power from Canada. I think in the long run, you're going to see going back to the table. People are going to negotiate, and you'll see negotiations. But I don't think Canada's going to lose.
I think we, the citizens, lose.
Yes, in the long run, we're the citizens lose in the long run.
We're just going to have to pay more, no matter what, who does what, tariffs here, tariffs there. It's all going to be on us as citizens.
Speaking of paying more, egg prices.
I owe 2 more payments. I owe 2 more payments on my dozen of eggs. You can use that one.
I'm going to use it. Thanks for your permission.
Allison
Y'all hear
said that just became part of her comedy routine.
Period. When y'all turn
We have removed them. We have removed them from our diet.
Wow. The bird flu outbreak has sent the price of eggs soaring up 58% over last year. Now, they say the avian flu outbreak is slowing. The numbers are slowing. But experts say egg prices will remain high, possibly through Easter.
Of course. Y'all get plastic eggs.
I remember the first time I went into the supermarket and saw, I think it was a 24 count or an 18 count was $12.99. And I was like, what? I thought it was a misprint at first. And I was like, man, that's a lot. And then it just became part of our regular everyday.
I don't purchase eggs.
You don't eat them anymore.
No. And did you hear about that company?
Your cholesterol going to go down. Everybody going to have good cholesterol now.
I don't have the data. I think it was Daryl. I don't have the data, Daryl. But I heard about a company that produces eggs, a large company. And they made so many millions in profits over these eggs. Already. And we still got the bird flu. So these prices going up. But, of course, they're not going to give any of that back because that's got to go to the shareholders, of which I am not one.
Well, okay, so this is where the millennial in me is exposed. I try to keep it real mature. But I remember when you sent us the questions, this is what we're going to discuss, and how does the grocery store trips kind of feel now? And I'm like, oh, shoot. I don't think I really separated which costs which. I just know when I get to the register, I'm always fussing. God dang it. I just only got a little bit in my basket. Why is this so much? And so that was one of those, oh, shoot, eggs cost $13. Then I started to pay attention, and I looked at a whole bunch of stuff. Like, why is the cereal this much? And this is not as many wings in this pack as it was. These are a little smaller, but it's just another thing of you can feel people's uncertainty and fear creeping up in every way, like the signs, even those people who like to live up under a rock. The impact is impacting.
Yeah, my producer just told me that he paid $9 for 18 eggs last night.
Wow.
Dang.
Yeah, I used to be able to get 2
Did
packs
you scramble?
for that.
I would have so much milk in them scrambled eggs. Let me tell y'all something. With the milk is. This when the kids will get some water. Right?
Spread them out just a little bit.
Ma, these eggs, they be so fluffy.
But now is the eggs is caught up with the egg substitute. You know? So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You know, but at the end of the day, this really is a serious conversation because somebody had put on social media that at Easter time, people going to be using potatoes as Easter eggs. They're going to be using potatoes for the Easter eggs instead of having Easter eggs.
Don't tell it, Gaylene. Now they're going to drive the price of the potatoes.
Oh, yeah, that's true, too. That's true, too.
She was just kidding.
But at the end of the day, you know, it's just real conversation, you know, that, you know, just things are going up. You know, I remember back in the 70s, but I'm only 30, just want y'all to know that.
Okay, yeah.
I remember back in the 70s remember when it was a gas shortage?
Yes.
And then the lines was real long and the prices was real high on gas. Mm-hmm. And then when it was over, the price just went down just a little bit, but it was higher than we ever paid it before. That's going to happen with eggs. Don't think eggs going to go back to where it used to be.
No, they're not. They're not.
All right. I want to spend the last few minutes of the show. This is Women's History Month. And I want to talk to you all about the greatest advice you've received or the action you've witnessed from a woman and how it changed you personally. I have a couple of things I want to read. One is from our production intern, Shavonna Tillery. She wrote, "My mama. I admire her faith, and she has had such a huge support, been such a huge support, especially when pursuing her professional passion." She says, "Janice Burgess, she was such an inspiration for me. Her own personal journey to produce children's media was a great influence on her." So she said, on aspiring Black producers like herself. I have to give a lot of credit to my mom. I don't know if all of us are going to go mom, but my mom was always there for me. I miss her dearly, but I remember wanting to pursuing a career in television news, and I just gotten my graduate degree, and it had been a year, and I still didn't have a job, and my dad was like, "Get her to sign a teaching contract," and my mother was like, "Leave my baby alone." But she was always my biggest supporter, and I miss her terribly. I think she has shaped me to be the mother that I am to my girls, but she was just that's who has shaped my life. And I'm going to throw a shout out to Ida B. Wells, because she just amazes me, and a lot of things she wrote back in 1890 are serving true today. So Daun, you're next.
Well, of course, my mama, Mr. Geraldine Anita Abbott Sessoms, I just want to call her name. But she instilled in me, and as my friends will say, just look at you. You look like your mama. And so I know I act like my mama. I have my daddy's bad parts, but I have some of his good parts too. But Mom, she was just great. She's a good woman overall. And I think Angela Davis was my militant role model as a woman. It's just like, I don't back down to anybody. And so back in the 70s when I was in college, she was one of the ones that was like, if you're going to do something, you got to know your stuff and state it plainly. And I try to do that.
Okay, thank you for sharing. I'm going to let Bill slide in between the two of you, because you can see me when I rap and he can't. So, Bill, you got 2 minutes. Talk to us.
Right, real simple. But 3 women really instilled what I am today. My grandmother, my mother, and my wife that I lost at a very, very young age, that taught me responsibility and futility to families. They taught me faith. They taught me education. They taught me to respect your marriage, love everybody, including them first, and believe in God. And those have been the tenets that I've always endeared in my life with regard to women especially. They're just dependable. You can count on them. When all the cards are laid down, you know who's going to be there? That woman. Not my buddy, but that woman who taught me how to raise 3 wonderful kids. And it was a pleasure and continues to be a pleasure to see good women in leadership positions like the ladies on this show today and others as well. I love them. I love women.
We love you too, Bill.
Gaylene.
So I have to say, I have a couple. My grandmother My grandmother was a businesswoman. She owns a grocery store. She was a realtor, and I think she had like 5 different jobs. She was a businesswoman, and she would take me around to receptions at a very early age, networking receptions. That's how I learned how to network. And when people ask me, what's your name? I say, Gaylene Kanoyton. She says, speak up, child. Let them know who you are. Tell them you're Gaylene Kanoyton. I ain't never stopped. Anyway, and then my mother was, she was in the union. She worked for the factory, automobile factory. And she taught me the importance of advocacy and family, and plus we've come from a very spiritual family, of course, too. But she was a fireball. She was my political grassroots pundit. And I miss her dearly, and then also Dr. Mary T. Christian, she was, we had calls at 12 o'clock at night, and I was there with her last breath, but she had that fighting spirit, and she also was a strong mentor, and also Senator Mamie Locke and Joni Ivey. The list can go on. And my aunt Silverina, who's graduated from Hampton, she's the reason why I came to Hamptons because of her. So I've had great women in my life. They were all fireballs. That makes me a fireball.
Gotcha. Indeed you are. Allison?
So shout out to Women and Women's History Month. My godmom, definitely. She's a woman of faith, and so she taught me that you can do stuff for people and not expect nothing in return. Like you can just be, it's okay. Like, it's all right, girl. Reciprocity, right? It will be returned back to you, and people might want to do something for you, and that don't mean that you got to give them your arm later, right? So she really helped shift my mindset to giving and receiving. And then my natural mom, I'm a junior, by the way. Did y'all know that? I'm a junior. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she always taught me that my personality is enough. Like, you're going to be all right. Even if you don't have any money, well, your gift is in your personality, is in your charisma, and let that take you into the rooms that you need to be in. She was very charismatic, and for other people, she saw that as a skill. And now I'm tapping into that, like, in what I do. It's people do appreciate that and they need that. But I wish my mom was still here. I lost her 10 years ago almost. Shout out to you, Mama. I know she just ain't want to babysit. She up there talking to angels to death. But, I wish I could call her. But so shout out to all of the women who have women, and y'all call somebody and tell these women that.
Absolutely. I was about to say that.
My bad.
You think about you're perfectly fine. Think about, the women in your life that have shaped you and molded you, and give them a call and say, Happy Women's History Month, and thank you for making a difference in my life.
And
thank you, Mama Gail.
Can I just say real quick is that I just want to give a shout out to Delegate Marcia Price, who just lost her mother.
Yes.
And her mother was a jewel. She was like a quiet storm. She worked for everyone. she was when you say community, you think about Valerie Price. So I just want to give condolences to the family. Yeah. And, especially, to, former Mayor McKinley Price, and to Marcia and the whole family.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, that is going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for spending your noonday hour with us. Next week on Another View, Barbara will be back, and she'll be joined in the studio with country music artist Roberta Lee. Our theme music is an original composition created especially for Another View by Jay Sennett. A very special thank you to Dr. Barry Graham, who filled in for me. Jordan Christie is our audio engineer, and Neil Johnson answered our phones. I'm Another View producer Lisa Godley. It's been a great pleasure spending this hour with you. Stay safe and join us again next Thursday at noon for Another View.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, carrying out your charitable wishes forever, whether it's helping shelter animals, feeding the homeless, enhancing the arts, or supporting students. Learn more at leaveabequest.org.